Playing Payday 2 is a pretty weird experience. It's a fresh new look on the old cops and robbers situation, but it brings a lot of depth and variety by focusing on the robbers aspect of it. I mean, all things considered, who doesn't want to be a cool dude in a suit running with ballistic armor taped all over you, or sneaking in like a criminal James Bond, but with a little less pussy slaying? It's the whole living out a fantasy deal. You get to step in the shoes of a somewhat famous criminal, a member of the Payday gang. Speaking of that, the actual characters in the game are cool. They all have their own unique voice lines whenever they need to communicate something, like the famous, "I need a medic bag," whenever some normie is getting downed constantly. Most characters aren't flat or dull or an extreme cliche. That being said, at least in the games themselves, you can't really flesh out any of their backstories. All you know is their face, nationality, and their voice, which are all usually pretty well done. The voice acting in this game is pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. But you know, I'm getting a little bit off track. What does it feel like to play Payday 2, and should I buy it? Well, depending on how you play Payday and your attitude towards it, playing Payday feels like completely different experiences. There are usually 3 or so ways playing Payday can go. One is you get on with your friends and have a mighty grand old time and have a lot of fun playing, win or lose. Payday in itself is a very fun game, and especially with some friends. That being said, soloing can either be a fun time, a regular time, or a ball-bustingly gross, disgusting time. You could join a random lobby, play a couple heists and be alright. You could join a lobby and actually make some friends and play for a while. Or, you could join a lobby and get instantly kicked for some reason or another. I'm alright when people take video games somewhat seriously. I mean, I do it myself. Maybe Payday is the only game you own and you like to get good at it. But there's a limit. You can only take Payday so seriously. I understand being in a 40-minute stealth heist and somebody randomly joins and just alerts everything on planet Earth and your hard work is down the toilet. But the worst kind of person is the kind of person who BMs people and gets pissed at them in a public Payday 2 lobby. What the fuck? There's no reason to be dousing yourself in salt. The Payday community is really good at being salty, for no apparent reason, constantly. Honestly, I have no idea why. So, I mean, that's the Payday community, which isn't terrible, debatable. But what about the actual gameplay? Well, for me, the actual gameplay for Payday needs to be examined more carefully than you might think. Obviously, the game has a lot of depth with its perk deck mechanics, the 5 different skill sets, and the pretty vast assortment of weapons. A pretty large selection of missions, even without buying some DLCs and being able to do many of said missions in either a loud or stealth setting. Payday 2 seriously lets you fulfill whatever kind of weird gun fantasies you have. You kinky fucks. You can use an incredible armory of weapons with an insane amount of mods for each one. Some of the guns are pure fun and not actually that viable, but hey, whatever, it's in the name of fun. But on the hardest difficulties, some weapons become nearly unusable. Honestly, I'd say very hard is where you can still meme your ass off with a saw and a grenade launcher. Once you get to Overkill and especially Death Wish, some weapons just don't have the necessary DPS, ammo, stability, or utility to be even remotely viable. It also depends on the difficulty of the heist itself and how long it is, but some weapons are just complete crap. Take almost any SMG in the game. Even without skills, SMGs do less damage than pistols. They try to compensate for a low DPS with a high fire rate, obviously, but SMGs do not have enough ammo capacity to do that at all. And if you take into account skills, there are more pistol skills in general, so you can run around like Sonic on crack, shooting at the speed of Don Travolta, reloading faster than you can say, "Fuck me, pistols are OP," and dealing enough damage to butt-sex enemies at the highest difficulties with little effort. It is somewhat of a shame that sometimes you can't really customize 100% the way you want to if you want to play on Death Wish. If it were up to me, I'd run around with a Kimbo silenced USB so I could look cool as fuck. Sadly, silencers fuck up your damage real nice and hard. It's like you're shooting out little Tic Tacs out of your fucking gun. This is my first real gripe with Payday, that some guns are just not worth using at all, even if you mod the shit out of them. And that there are far more skills relating to everything but SMGs. It's a small little gripe that I have, but Overkill has straight up denied a weapon class any attention at all. I mean, alright, you could mod something for full damage so it might become somewhat useful, but there comes the next big issue. Mods and actually obtaining them. Having anus truckloads of mods are all well and good, but if we need to go through hours of playing and a dick shitload of RNG to get one mod we want, it might not be worth it. The main way to get mods is at the end of the heist, you get to pick 1 out of 3 cards for a random loot drop. Pro tip, it doesn't matter which one you pick because the game has already predetermined what drop you get. Now, this is where the first RNG anal shitstorm comes into play. You'll feel like you're playing Hearthstone, trust me. First, the only kind of drops you can get are masks, patterns, materials, colors, drills, safes, and mods. It's already a 1 out of 7 chance you will get a mod. Doesn't sound too bad, right? Wrong. The gun you get a mod for is also completely random, and I've gotten drops for guns I will never use, and have never used in the past. Ever! Even if you get a mod for a gun you do use, obviously the mod you get is also completely random. And, as I said, there's a large assortment of mods for most guns, so good luck with the RNG, kiddo. All those random hoops you need to jump through just for one mod, for one gun. Also, another way of obtaining mods and even stat boosts is by doing the side jobs, either the monthly, weekly, or daily ones. But the thing is, sometimes the side jobs are just kind of really annoying and not really worth your time, especially if you're a casual player and you just don't want to do other shit. And it might become actually kind of a roadblock and you'll never use the side jobs anyways. I can't tell how many times I've accidentally done a side job and gotten a mod just out of nowhere. It can be useful sometimes, but other times it's just really time consuming. Like for example, the nostalgia side job. No skills is a real big bummer. You basically have to use rogue perk deck and hope you get lucky with dodge RNG. Is it worth it? It's really up to you. It's kind of a matter of preference and opinion. In my opinion, it's not that worth it, which is why I never do the side jobs anyways. It's there for you to do or not do depending on what you want. Grinding seems to be a very strong theme in Payday apparently, and no, not the perk deck. Gaining XP in Payday isn't terribly difficult, but for the most parts, level 1 through 85-ish are actually quite the breeze. But from 85 to 100, there are only a couple heists that give actually good XP. Moreover, level 95 to 100 is a grind fest of one heist, Hoxton Breakout. Yes, there might be some other alternatives, but Breakout is easily the most played and most effective mission to level up in the late levels. Now, this can seem somewhat okay, right? You can basically play the game from level 1 to 90 playing whatever you want, and then take the last couple levels just grinding out a certain heist so you finally get to level 100. No big deal. But the real issue comes with Infamy. The mechanic of Infamy in the game basically acts as a prestige. You lose all your money and $200 million offshore money, and you go back to level 2. You unlock an Infamy point to spend in the Infamy tree. Inside of this Infamy tree are masks and some XP boosts, and that's about it. Those are useful for making the climb back to level 100 not so lengthy, but in practice it doesn't do that much. Honestly, while they are useful, in the early levels of Infamy it doesn't make such a large difference. In total, to unlock all the rewards in the Infamy tree, you must go infamous 25 times. 25 friggin' times. That is going from level 1 to 100 on 25 separate occasions. Each one becomes somewhat easier due to that XP boost, but that's still ridiculous. It's so insane, in fact, that most times when people see an Infamy 25 player, they instantly accuse them of cheating, which is kind of fair, because it's usually true. You gotta play this game a whole lot. Basically have it as your only game in your Steam library to dedicate to it that much. Alright, so that was a bit of a lengthy rant. By no means do I want to say Payday 2 is a bad game, even though I've been harping on it all video long. I intend on playing this game and even making some video about it in the future, but as a fan it would be unjust not to criticize it for the things it does wrong. I do it in hopes that it may become better one day. But, as I only have been complaining so far, it's also somewhat unjust to not sing its praises either. Payday 2 is an incredibly fun game to play. It really is a game that is alright solo but enriched to insane proportions with friends or capable teammates. The gameplay is pretty well thought out for the most part, heists are fun, usually, and the game doesn't look too bad either. Payday is a game you fire up and play with some friends every once in a while, just for fun. The bonus is, because you can go infamous, however tedious it may be, and because it receives constant new updates and DLCs with new heists, weapons, and achievements, you'll be heisting with your friends for a very, very, very long time before you actually achieve everything there is to achieve. This is not a game you play every day for 9 hours for months, because that is when it becomes an unfun, boring experience where you just feel like you're grinding every day of your life. If you want a proper Payday experience, grab some friends, have a grand old time raiding your asses off with every gun under the sun. Also, not to mention, the soundtrack for Payday 2 is absolutely ridiculously awesome if you care to take a listen to it. Most people don't actually pay that much attention to it. I'm not gonna lie though, it's pretty freaking good. It's pretty fucking good. And with all that being said, that is the real Payday experience. I'm not gonna go heavily into the DLC in this video. I didn't really even touch upon it at all, as Overkill's treatment of DLCs require an entire video on their own. Expect to see a lot of Payday stuff coming, mostly because it's really easy for me to do, and it's actually pretty enjoyable, mostly because I just like it, and when I play with my friends, I feel like I really have a good time, and might as well upload it to YouTube, right? This is not much of a formal review. It's honestly what you'll be getting when you play Payday. Somewhat generalized, yes, but on average, this is usually what you might experience. Thanks everyone for watching this new style of video. This is Mr. Snapshot, and that was the Payday experience. How many times